Will the felon's death be America's second Independence Day? Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Thank you for liking, watching, commenting on the videos, sharing the videos, promoting the channel. Huge thank you for all of those things. If you've given money to the channel through Venmo, Buy Me a Coffee, the super thanks, a huge thank you. It's all greatly appreciated. I am offering a uh, how to read tarot cards from the way I've been taught uh, on my Patreon page. I'll link that in the description. You can check it out if you're interested. If you're not interested, that's fine as well. Um, okay, so will the fun will the felon's death reduce the country's anxiety? Will his death be the beginning of the end of Maga? Will Maga become irrelevant? Will the damage that Maga has caused be repairable? Will Trump's death anniversary be a holiday of sorts for a generation of people? Let's let's look at all of those questions. So while I was scrying, I keep getting images of his passing in various forms, seeing him sick, um, seeing the rotunda with the flag draped coffin, protesters happening, celebrations happening when the death is announced. And when I was meditating earlier, I kept getting images of the movie from I think it's from the 90s, I guess late 90s probably, of Independence Day, and it's like that at the end scene of the movie after they've defeated the alien intruders, and it kind of got me thinking, it's like, would we start celebrating the death anniversary of the felon, especially after MAGA becomes irrelevant? So let's look at all of these questions. We'll go in the order in which I read them. We'll start with um, does his death reduce anxiety? Then we'll move to is it the beginning of the end of MAGA? And then we'll move to will MAGA become irrelevant? And then will the damage that they caused be repairable? And then we'll finish with this idea of will his death be some sort of yearly celebration? So let's start with will the felon's death reduce anxiety? So the budget bill passed uh, yesterday. Today's July 4th, so happy 4th of July, everybody in the US and anybody else wishing to celebrate or not celebrate. Mixed emotions myself on that one. But so the budget bill passed on the 3rd. They just passed the Senate's version. We'll do a deeper dive into how Democrats should handle that in another reading, but this one as expected. If you remember a while back, I said I thought there would be a delay in the budget bill, and I guess at the time I really didn't think about what that meant, but it kind of felt like that was the House vote. They held the vote open for many hours, and then Speaker or Minority Leader Jeffries, soon to be Speaker Jeffries, um, held the floor for many hours as well, delaying the vote. And I think that's actually what those images were about. So, well, will the felon's death reduce the country's anxieties? Actually, the world's anxieties. Felon's death reduce. So I think so. So I was seeing the Ten of Swords in the scrying bowl. Of course, the Ten of Swords comes after the Nine of Swords, and the Nine of Swords is the card for anxiety. And the Ten of Swords is like the end of a dark cycle. Could also be downfall. All of those things seem to fit as well. So let's see what we get from the cards. I don't think it makes anxiety go away completely or anything like that. I think there'll be a lot of worry about what happens next with junior varsity Vance. So currently we're in this state. This is kind of where we're at with the Five of Wands. We're very combative. I'm sure a lot of you, like myself, yesterday in particular was a very upsetting day, and this is early on July 4th that I'm recording this. I still feel dismayed at the budget bill passing, um, even though I knew it was going to pass. It's still perplexing to me that I got an email from the Social Security Administration talking about how this is the biggest tax break for seniors. Not at all accurate. So, it's this being lied to thing. Republicans are good at propaganda. We have to be ready for that. So this is the current energy that we're in. We're fighting against propaganda. We're fighting against these cuts to Medicaid and changes to Medicare. In particular, worried about the work requirement for Medicaid. Uh, but things are changing. We get the Chariot card. Things are moving forward. And so after we come out of this energy, after we're done fighting, so to speak, and the felon has moved on, the passing has happened, it's like we kind of have choices again. Versus right now, it doesn't really feel like we have choices, which I think is why there's so much anxiety. It's like, yeah, we can call our representatives, we can call our senators, and I think all those things are fantastic, and I think we need to continue to do those. We can protest. I think we need to continue to do that as well. But it's kind of like we know we're not really being heard. What we're really doing is we're influencing the next election and the candidates that we're getting for the next election, and we're sending a message to them on how powerful we are as a voting bloc. We get a lot of empathy with the Queen of Cups. People are empathizing with the pain that the felon is causing, or empathizing with the people that he's causing the pain to. At the center of the reading is deceit and deception. And when he passes, it's not that the deceit and the deception goes away. It's that the deceit and the deception isn't so in our face. It isn't so blatant and then being ignored by lawmakers. So, in that sense, I think that uh, this gives us a little bit more freedom. I do think people are going to be celebrating in the streets. I think this is going to come as a surprise to a lot of Republican lawmakers and MAGA lawmakers how much Donald Trump, the felon, is despised. I don't think they quite fully understand the sentiment there. I don't think they quite grasp that while most of us don't wish harm on anyone, when the person is actively causing harm to the entire world, it's a little bit of a different story. It will be a relief when he goes. Yeah, we get wish fulfillment, the Nine of Cups. And we get the Moon card. We'll be worried about the volatility. We'll be worried about what comes next, what's coming from underneath the surface. How does junior varsity Vance approach the presidency? How does how do Republican lawmakers react to him? How do Democratic lawmakers react? So, but then we get the Sun card. It's like there's hope again. That's really all that I think happens. Does it reduce anxiety? I don't think maybe that was the right question. It does feel like anxiety is a little bit lessened, but I think what's back is that there's hope. it's like a wish fulfilled. That's why the Nine of Cups is here. The wish was fulfilled, and then we get the sun energy of being able to like see clearly. Like we're able to envision a future again. Whereas right now it's like it's hard to envision a future because of his energy. It's so toxic. It's hard to imagine uh doing anything but fighting, especially if we have kids and grandkids. That's all we can think about is fighting to make sure that their rights are equal to or better than our rights, and it doesn't appear that that's going to happen. So, this fighting, what are we fighting against? We're fighting against the deceit and the deception. Why do we win? We win because we have the sun on our side. The resistance will win. Wishes will be fulfilled. The deceit and the deception becomes a choice. It's like people realize that they chose this, that the people that supported him, will have a lot of regrets. Things will move forward. There'll be a lot of empathy for the pain that he's caused. And there's going to be more surprises still, especially within this budget bill that we don't quite understand just yet. And there's volatility because we're not exactly sure what's next. But I think after some time, not only does the anxiety go away, but the idea of actually dreaming again about a bright future. And, I don't think it's coincidental that the person on the horse looks like a young child. I think it's supposed to be a cherub, but um, I think that's not coincidental. Uh, People will be very weary. Um, there will be loss. There'll be a sense of loss in a lot of different ways. Um, but the people are going to send a powerful message by being in the streets celebrating, showing exactly how much he's despised. That really sends a very strong message. And I think it's received. I think it's not gone unheard because the truth is all the with the Ace of Swords, all we want is this Ten of Cups energy. We want our families, we want to be around our friends, and we want the freedom to gather and celebrate and not worry about who's going to be kidnapped or what and all the other horrible things that are going on. So, will his death reduce the country's anxieties? Might not be immediate. There might be a period of weariness, is what it feels like. Okay, will his death be the beginning of the end of MAGA? So I have never seen um, a Republican being president in 2028. Or 2029, the election will be in 2028. I've never seen that. I can't quite place which Democrat it is, but it certainly does not feel like a Republican. It feels that the Democrats get the Senate back if they don't get it back in 26. It feels like the Democrats control all three branches of government. Is that right? Do the Democrats control all three branches of government in 2028? Yeah, they bring back stability. Yeah, that's what people are going to vote for. They're going to vote for stability. This craziness is only palpable for so long. Most of us are over it, including the people that voted for him. Okay. Will the death, will the felon's death be the beginning of the end of Maga? Its death be the beginning of the end of Maga. It very much got a Five of Cups feel to it. It's like it's just a huge blow to their ideology because there's nobody electable that will be able to uh, carry on this craziness. there's nobody that has the same cult-like following is maybe a better way of saying it. Yeah, so it's the end. His death is the death of MAGA, or the beginning of the death, if you wish. Um, Now MAGA will get reinvented. It'll be in different forms. The battle between good and evil never ends. It'll continue, but it won't be in this way. It's like, lifting your hands and rejoicing is going to be the feeling that the country has as we see the downfall of many of the politicians. And again, I think there's a lot of extra stuff that happens, excuse me, with things being exposed of crimes that the felon had committed before and during the White House, as well as, blackmail schemes, all of these things, for entertainment purposes only. That stuff all comes out, and that all plays a role in the downfall. It's a return to like logic. Yeah, I mean, the king and queen of swords. It's like the country gets back on track. It's like, things are done purposefully for good, not purposefully for bad. And in the case of this budget bill, there's enough noise, I'm going to call it noise, that it's going to be very important, and we'll talk about this more when we get closer to elections. The Democrats attack the parts that are bad and leave the other parts that people are going to perceive as good alone, such as no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, a $6,000 tax deduction for seniors. Um, these things are going to be seen as good. So, but they're really just poisoned pills so they could pass horrible cuts to Medicaid. That's really what it was about. And give tax breaks to super rich people. New partnerships forming, new alliances. It's like the political parties will start to realign themselves. This happens every once in a while. It's happening right now, to be honest with you. There are a lot of people that used to vote for Republicans that are voting for Democrats, and there are a lot of people that used to vote for Democrats that are voting for MAGA. It's just the way things go. It's like a convergence situation. It's an inflection point. The felon's death speeds things up. It speeds up the end of the marginalized being uh, a campaigning point. It will once again become unacceptable to attack minorities, immigrants, people with disabilities, any marginalized community. It'll become unacceptable again. It's the start of moving forward and moving away from the trouble that has been going on for the last 10 years. There's going to be deceit and deception in the environment around for a while. You know, but it brings about a more moderate time period with the temperance card. It's just like things aren't going to be perfect because you know what? They never will be. It's just the way things are. But it stops the complete and utter chaos. So his death is the death of MAGA. New partnerships form to bring about more moderate political parties. Um, Now, the Democrats probably kind of stay in the same lane that they are, but Republicans are the ones that change the most, is what it feels like, because they can't win elections anymore. That's why. Uh, we're moving away from the trouble because we form new partnerships that are based on logic and truth. So the deception, it gets replaced by logic and empathy and the fact that we're kind of all united in knowing where we don't want the country to go. And that might be enough. Just being united and knowing where we don't want the country to go. So underneath, we get families, reunions, celebrations, the Ten of Cups, again, an end of a cycle. The past will be judged very harshly. This time period will be looked upon very harshly and with a lot of confusion. And we do get new leadership with the Ace of Wands, one that's, brings about an era of being of strength in the sense of being able to help the common person. And yeah, so does Maga eventually become irrelevant? I've always sensed this. I've sensed this about Stephen Miller too. It's like at some point, and it doesn't feel like it's that far off, whether it's, 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years tops. It's like they all become irrelevant. So does MAGA become irrelevant? MAGA become irrelevant. I think they become irrelevant in the way that the dinosaurs became irrelevant. It's like they cease to exist, like in any meaningful way. It's almost the way the Republican Party is in California. There really isn't a Republican Party in California, like on the state level. They're just irrelevant. Yeah, people are going to choose more nurturing things. The Empress card. And we get the Knight of Wands. This fiery message is going to be sent around the time of the felon's passing that kind of scares a lot of the MAGA people back into their shell. And I think this budget bill is also a good example of how MAGA starts to deteriorate because, they basically took healthcare away from a huge swath of their voters. They are trying to sell a couple $100 tax credit for per child as a huge thing when they're giving, the average millionaire is going to get $75,000 extra spending money every year. Somebody making $80,000 is just going to get a couple hundred, right? It's like the message is going to be received. There'll still be anxiety that MAGA will come back, and that's good. We need that. We need the anxiety that they're going to come back because if they come back, then we're in bigger trouble. I think we ultimately go along with the energy of our higher selves, spirituality. The Hierophant can be the church, the Pope, the governments, the courts, but also can be our higher selves. It's like the voters kind of start voting not just in their interests, but in the interests of the community. And I think that's where things shift. This is that shifting into the age of Aquarius, that uh, realizing the shift in the things that we value. It's kind of a transformational time period that we're living through right now. We get the Knight of Pentacles. There'll be lots of messages sent about the things that we value, about money. And we get the Queen of Wands. There won't be, this putting up with nonsense. This is a prosecutorial type energy. It's like, yeah, you're not going to get away with these things anymore. Um, and, you know, the fighting will continue, but the fighting will be over how we move forward. And we get the Sun card again, and I don't think this is coincidental at all. It's like we need to shed the light completely on everything they stood for and stand for, and the people that they stood with and stood by and that supported them. So exposing the fact that, they're supported by all the white nationalists and the Nazis, exposing that some of the Nazis are actually members of MAGA and are elected officials in certain states. These things will become exposed, and that's what really makes them irrelevant. And I think like a new political party almost forms to get rid of them. So, people are going to nurture this idea of what we now value, which shifts a little bit. Losing security in the sense of watching people lose healthcare shifts that value system into to one where, what we care about is people having security in healthcare. And the political parties have to change. There to be a realignment for this to happen, for them to be electable. So, they'll be fighting about what it is that we value and also fighting against the things that cause us anxiety to and then in the environment around, there's all these fiery messages that we send through our protests and our celebrations when he goes. And then there'll be a time of reflection and it's like humanity reflecting on how did that happen? It's almost like the 1950s again, but without all the horrors that still existed in the 1950s. There's still horrors, there still will be. And it'll be striving towards this idea of the sun card and things being fully revealed so everybody fully understands exactly who these people were and what they were trying to do. So yeah, they'll become irrelevant. People are just going to walk away from it because what did they cause? They caused poverty. And, you know, it's like in some ways they were using the dark forces to manipulate people with propaganda and mis and disinformation. It's inevitable that this has to come to an end. And Democrats will be the short-term fix. Now, the Democrats they're not going anywhere. They'll just kind of change over time. And this has happened forever and ever, just like they evolved on marriage equality, they'll evolve on other issues as well. Universal income, universal health care, for example, all these things will eventually come to pass. So, so is the damage that Magus caused, is it repairable? Is the damage that Maga caused repairable? Now, I've always thought that it is. It feels like US democracy survives. It's not really even a close call. Uh, yes, there's going to be attacks here and there. Um, you know, but it's important that we separate conspiracy theory from reality too, right? We have to be a little bit careful that we don't embrace conspiracy without evidence. Is the damage repairable? There's a lot of fear that it isn't, and that's understandable. I mean, we'd be silly not to have anxiety about that. It's going to take a while to repair the courts, for example, but we have protection on our side. The star card's here. It's been here in almost every reading we've done on this topic. The protection sides with the people. And eventually this dark cycle comes to an end. Here's the Ten of Swords that I was seeing in the Scrying Bowl earlier. It's like it comes to an end. And once the dark cycle comes to an end, the repairing can start. Um, we get the Six of Swords, exchanging things of value, repayments of loans and debts, starting to redistribute wealth in a way that makes sense. Does this mean that, all the money from billionaires are seized and redistributed? I don't think it means that at all. I think it just means that there's a fairer system and there's like a protectionary system so that people aren't living um, without health care. So choices will need to be made on how it's done. But I think there'll be some surprising ways in which this happens. New contracts, surprising partnerships that work together to find a solution to fixing the problems that Maga caused. There'll be a lot of support for it with the Three of Cups. And, you know, people will be guarded at first. People are, going to be very leery that it'll be able to be repaired. And I'm sure several of you listening are also weary. And that's a perfectly reasonable position to be in. In fact, it's almost necessary for this to work. And we get the high priestess. So things working behind the scenes. So, the fear that it won't happen leads to the choices, but there's like this behind the scenes action that kind of helps it. It's the universe guiding us. So, circles of support and celebration to make those changes to really put an end to that dark cycle of the Ten of Swords. And then in the environment around these are all really positive cards. We've got the Star card of protection. We get the Six of Pentacles, giving and receiving of money in ways that benefit us. People approaching this from a very skeptical position, which is the way things get done correctly, and then unlikely partnerships coming together. So, yeah, it feels very much like things get repaired. The heartache has to go. I mean, the heartache is going to be there for a while, but what happens afterwards is we get this new beginning with the Fool card. And the fighting is just to fix things. I mean, there has to be debate about how they're fixed. So um, that's why the Five of Wands is there. And then we get the King of Wands energy, which is a very eloquent leader type energy that'll take us out of this hanged man energy that we're currently in. So it feels very much like things get repaired. Now, are things better overnight? In some sense, yes, right? Once there's Democrats in control, and Democrats are the only option, so that's just the way that works. Um, Once they're in control, and specifically the House, the Senate, and the White House, there's steps to take to expose MAGA, to expose the crimes that were committed, and to shed it off in a new light and to handle it. I think there'll be prosecutions. I really do. I think we'll see just it won't go fast enough for most of us, but it'll happen. All right. So I've always seen there being a huge celebration when Trump passes, when the felon goes. Um, this is pretty much, I think, been confirmed by all of your comments and by the people I know. It's like everybody's going to celebrate. So does this become an anniversary of sorts? Do people celebrate his death every year? And does it become kind of like not an actual holiday? Because I don't think that'll happen, but does it become kind of an unspoken holiday for like a generation of people? What do we need to know about that? Okay, so we get the felon at the start of the reading. This is good, just confirmation that we're reading on the right thing. There'll be things going on behind the scenes, the high priestess. It's like it's not a recognized holiday. I don't think that ever happens. I don't think that ever would happen. But there's kind of an undercurrent of everybody knows whatever date that it is, that on this date was the day he left. And we get the Seven of Wands. It's like this feeling that everything that we did and used to defend ourselves was successful. And it's a surprising new beginning, the Ace of Cups. It's like a reminder every year of how far we had come. And again, messages around money. So in some ways, the felon brings about these messages around the things that we value, and it changes the value system. And we get the magician and the environment around as well. You know, Elon Musk will be completely ostracized at some point, along with Stephen Miller, all of these people. They're all just going to kind of go into hiding because they're going to be so loathed that, especially with the way they're acting with some of the people that the younger generations really resonate with. We get the chariot card. It's like this day was the day that the forward movement started. That hanged man energy ended, and we were able to move forward. That doesn't mean that the struggle's over on the day that he dies, but what it means is like it gives us that like push. We're ready to go forward. And it's like the Nine of Pentacles, having everything that we need, maybe not everything that we want. We get there, and it's remembering that. And his deceit and his deception being defeated, even though it was karmically and not by the courts, you know, will be celebrated. I mean, people will always think this is what should have happened, right? He should have been held accountable. But history judging him so harshly is kind of the way that that happens. So the felon brings about this new value system that doesn't allow this deceit and this deception on such a mass scale anymore. It's just not a, it's there's guardrails that get put in place. It gives us this chance to move forward, to realize the things that we value. And what is it that we value? We value above anything else security, which is why I think we're so anxious now, is because we don't have any security. There'll be things working behind the scenes with the high priestess to bring about this surprising new beginning. A lot of manifestation on the collective's part to create a society where most of us have the things that we need, maybe not the things that we want. Now, of course, this is slow going. It's not going to be utopia in 2030 or anything like that, but it's going to start to move towards that. The anxiety goes away because the people are back in charge and they have leaders that actually represent them, keep them protected with the star card, and move us forward away from the trouble. So, uh, yeah, I think every year people will have quiet celebrations on the anniversary of his death. And it'll become very apparent very quickly how loathed and despised this person is. So, anyhow, I hope you have a wonderful holiday weekend. I'll be back with another video soon. Thank you.